The money landed on a Thursday, not dramatically, not the way you imagined it when you were younger and used to think about what it would feel like. It was a notification on your phone. A number with more digits than you were used to seeing next to your name. You were in the car outside a gas station, and you read it 3 times, and then you went inside and bought a bottle of water you did not need and stood in the aisle for a moment doing nothing. You did not call anyone, you drove home. You made dinner? You watched something on television that you cannot remember now. You went to sleep in the same bed, in the same room, and the numbers sat in your bank account overnight without anyone knowing it was there. That was the last normal night for a long time. Your mother found out the way your mother always finds out things. Not because you told her. Because you mentioned something small and offhand to someone who mentioned it to someone else, and within 72 hours your mother called you on a Wednesday afternoon with a particular tone in her voice that meant she already knew and was waiting to see if you would tell her yourself. You told her. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said she was proud of you. Then she said your cousin Marcus had been going through something difficult lately, a situation with his landlord, nothing major, she just thought you should know. You knew what that meant. You had always known what that meant. You just had never been on this side of it before. You called Marcus. He did not bring it up directly. He talked about other things for 15 minutes, and then mentioned the situation almost in passing, the way people mention things they have been thinking about for days. The number he needed was small. You had it. You sent it before you hung up. That should have been the end of it. It was not the end of it. 3 weeks later, your phone lit up with a name you had not seen in years. A relative from your father's side. Someone you remembered from childhood, someone who used to come around at holidays and then stopped coming around the way some people do. He opened with warmth. Asked about your life. Laughed at something you said. Then after about 10 minutes he got to it. An opportunity. Something he was putting together. He just needed someone to believe in it early. You sat there holding the phone and felt something you could not name at first. It was not anger. It was something more like watching a magic trick after someone has shown you how it works. You could see every part of it. The warmth at the beginning. The laughter. The 10 minutes of runway before the landing. You said you would think about it. You did not think about it. What surprised you was not the asking people ask. That is not new. What surprised you was the shape of the conversations that were not asking. Your older sister started mentioning things differently. Not requests. Just mentions. She saw a car she liked. She described a vacation she was thinking about. She talked about her kitchen and how the countertops had needed replacing for 2 years. Now she did not ask you for anything. She just made sure you knew about the gap between what she had and what she wanted. You started to understand that there were 2 kinds of conversations now. The ones where people asked directly and the ones where people arranged the information so carefully that the ask was already in the room before anyone said a word. You loved your sister, you still love your sister, but you started dreading her calls in a way you never had before, and you felt guilty about dreading them. And the guilt made the calls worse. Your brother handled it differently. He did not ask, he competed. You noticed it first at a family dinner. He mentioned his salary unprompted, then a deal he was working on, then something about an investment he had made. He was talking to the table, but he was talking to you. You could feel it. The information was aimed. You remembered being 17 and your brother being 19, and the 2 of you sharing a room, and he would stay up late explaining things to you, how engines worked. Why certain people succeeded and others did not. He was generous with what he knew. He liked knowing more than you. That was fine. That was just who he was. But the thing he knew now was that you had crossed something he had not crossed yet, and he did not know what to do with that. So he talked louder at dinner and mentioned numbers and hoped one of them would land somewhere useful. You did not say anything. You just refilled his glass when it was empty and changed the subject and pretended not to notice. That was the kindest thing you could do, and you both knew it. 6 months after the money arrived, your grandmother turned 80. The family rented a hall. There was food and music and 3 generations crammed into a space that was slightly too small and slightly too warm and completely right. You stood near the back at one point watching your grandmother move through the room, and you felt something uncomplicated for the first time in months. Just love. Just the simple fact of her. Then your uncle found you. He was not a bad man. You want to be clear about that because it matters. He was a man who had worked hard his whole life, and things had not gone the way he planned, and now he was 61 years old watching his nephew stand in a rented hall, and he was trying to find the right words for something he did not have words for. He said you had done well for yourself. You said thank you. He said he always knew you had it in you. You said thank you again. Then he said it, not meanly, almost sadly. He said some of them had worked just as hard. You know, it just did not always work out the same way for everyone. You looked at him and you saw it. Not bitterness exactly. Something older than bitterness. A question he had been carrying for years that your existence had made louder. Why not me? What was different? What did I miss? You did not have an answer. You are still not sure there is one. Luck is real. Timing is real. Hard work is real. The combinations are infinite, and they do not resolve into a clean explanation that makes anyone feel better. At a birthday party, you said you knew. You said he was right. You excused yourself to get more food. You were not hungry. Your father never said a word about any of it. Not the money, not the relatives, not the shift in every room that you had both watched happen over the same 6 months. He came over on Sundays, the same as always. He sat in the same chair. He drank coffee and talked about whatever he was reading, or watching, or thinking about. He did not treat you differently. He did not treat you carefully. He just treated you the way he always had, like his kid, like someone he was happy to be in the same room with. One Sunday, he noticed your front door was sticking. He went to his truck and got a planer and spent 40 minutes fixing it. You offered to pay for his time. He looked at you the way you look at someone who has said something that does not make sense in the language you both speak. He went home without making anything of it. You stood at the fixed door for a while after he left the call. You did not expect came from your cousin Diane, not the cousin who needed help with rent, a different one. Diane, who you had not spoken to properly in years, who lived in another city, who sent birthday texts and Christmas messages and nothing else. She called on a random Tuesday and she did not want anything. She said she had been watching you from a distance for a long time. She said she grew up believing that certain things were not available to people like them. Not because anyone told her that directly. Just because she had never seen anyone from her world do it, and absence teaches its own lessons. Then she watched you do it. She said she wanted you to know that it changed something in how she thought about what was possible. Not for you. For her, she had started something small. She did not know if it would work, but she had started it, and she probably would not have without the evidence that someone from the same starting place could get somewhere different. She asked nothing. She just wanted to say it. You sat with that call for a long time after you hung up. What nobody tells you about being the first is that it is not a celebration. It is a reclassification. You do not just get more money. You get a new relationship with every person who has ever known you, And most of those relationships have to be renegotiated without anyone admitting that the renegotiation is happening. Some people renegotiate toward you. They want more access, more help, more of something you now have that they do, not that part you expected. What you did not expect was the people who renegotiate away from you. The old friends who get quieter, the siblings who are suddenly busy more often, the relatives who are perfectly warm when you see them, but somehow you see them less. They do not dislike you. You have not done anything wrong. But something about the distance between where you are and where they are is uncomfortable to be close to, and so without making a decision about it, they create a little more space. You lose people you did not mean to lose. That is the part that stays. Your mother called you on a night when you were already tired. She started the conversation normally, then she worked her way around to your brother. Something about how he was struggling. How the last year had been hard on him. How family was supposed to show up for each other. You listened to all of it. Then you said gently that you had shown up, that you had been showing up. That showing up did not always mean the specific thing someone wanted from you. She went quiet. Then she said she just did not want you to forget where you came from. You told her you had not forgotten anything. You hung up and sat in the quiet of your house and felt something that took you a while to identify. It was not anger. It was not sadness, exactly. It was the loneliness of being loved by people who do not know how to love the version of you that exists now. They are still loving the earlier version, the one that fit more easily into the shape of what they expected. The new version makes them uncertain, and uncertainty is uncomfortable, and so sometimes the love comes out sideways. You know this. It does not make it easier. You know it and it still hurts, and both of those things are true at the same time. A year after the money arrived, you went back to the neighborhood where you grew up. Not for a reason, just to drive through it. The way you sometimes need to go back to a place to confirm that you are actually somewhere different. Now, you parked on the street where you lived when you were 12. The house looked smaller than you remembered. They always do. A kid came out of the house next door and got on a bicycle and rode away, and you watched him go, and you thought about all the things you did not know when you were that age, about what the years would do. You thought about Diane and what she said about absence teaching its own lessons. You thought about your father fixing the door without making anything of it. You thought about your uncle at the birthday party with the question he could not ask out loud. You sat there for a while, then you drove home. Going first cost something. That is the truth nobody says at the beginning because it sounds ungrateful and because the cost is real and the gain is also real. And both of those things being true at the same time is hard to hold. You do not go first and stay the same. You go first and become legible to some people in a new way and illegible to others entirely. Some of the people who loved you will love you through it. Some of them will love you toward something. Some of them will love you from further away, because the distance feels safer to them than the closeness. You cannot control which category anyone falls into. What you can do is stay honest about who you are. Stay connected to the table even when the table is uncomfortable. Keep showing up for the ones who are showing up for you. Let the ones who need distance have it without taking it personally, even when it is hard not to take it personally. And when someone from the same starting place calls you on a random Tuesday to say that watching you changed what they thought was possible, pick up the phone. That is the whole point. That was always the whole point.